cannon stuff. But he's overcome all that, and he's really good, too.
How you doing?
Good afternoon. Coming out today, we have here head coach Alex Wood, along with junior wide receiver Ron Willoughby. Bulls will head to Ohio on Wednesday night to start their first of four quote-unquote MACtion games. They had midweek games. Coach, if you want to open up with a statement just about the team, and then we can we'll take questions from there.
Sure. Thanks, John. Just to update everyone, we're in pretty good shape. Physically, we've got a couple of guys obviously still nursing. Ron being one of them, nursing some injuries. From last week's game. But all in all, we're in pretty good health. Kyrell Thweets, he suffered a thumb sprain, but he's been able to come back and get some practice in. He's our obviously outside linebacker. And then other than that, again, we're in pretty good shape.
Is Marcus Baker healthy enough to maintain more of a role or even start this game?
Yes, Marcus Baker. He won't start this game, but he'll get significant more playing time without question. And to answer your question, yes.
Okay. So no limitations or anything
at
this point?
No.
Okay. How does that change things defensively for you? I mean, obviously his loss was something that, hurt you guys for a good part of this year.
Well, it gives us another, obviously, a quality player on the field and available for play. It helps us from a defensive schematic standpoint, obviously, and then also it helps us on special teams because he'll take on a role there as well. So, anytime you can get a guy who is a starter back, obviously it'll bolster, what you're doing on the football field.
The changes that you made personnel, and I know you said they were more tied to the opponent, but on the defensive line, can you assess how those went, and is that something that has opened up some ideas or some opportunities for you moving forward?
Yeah. Putting Sicoli out at end, I thought he played with much more impact and activity, being able to move around a little bit more at end, giving him a two-way go, being not necessarily, he's not a two-gap player, but we had some movement in our scheme on defense that allowed him to take an inside gap, outside gap, if you will. Okay, so that I thought that helped him. Whether or not we'll continue with him permanently there, that remains to be seen. It could continue to be a week-to-week thing, depending on how well it fits into our game plan defensively to create more edge pressure or more penetration from the outside in, so to speak, where we moved him to. And then Max Parisi did a nice job for us inside, holding up and chased the ball well, worked off of some blocks and chased the ball well. So Max will stay in that role, along with Dalton Barksdale inside. But yeah, I thought some of those moves were good for us. Yes.
Coach, a couple weeks ago, I talked to you about the time of possession. Every game that had been in your favor against Central was not. From your vantage point, how did that kind of go from, 35 minutes against Eastern all the way down to just under 24?
Yeah, that was obviously a problem, for us. I mean, not having possession. I mean, they controlled the line of scrimmage is what it comes down to. Eastern's defense controlled the line of scrimmage on us. So when that happens, your time of possession goes down, obviously, because you can't move and get the first downs that you need to hold the football. And then also we had one. Well, they're all significant, but one real significant turnover and an INT. So that cuts down on your time of possession, obviously. But really, in a nutshell, they controlled the line of scrimmage.
How have you kind of addressed that this week, going into obviously getting that edge on the line of scrimmage back in your favor?
Well, we're just making sure that we're fundamentally and assignment sound, and not that we weren't last week, but we got to continue to work on those things, obviously, because each defense and when you talk about defense, not only just the structure but the personnel. I mean, inside the structure, because that's the key. I mean, are the players. So I think we'll be better against Ohio, but obviously we have to still go play the football game.
Hey, Ron, has Coach's message been to you guys that, there is still an opportunity to be bowl eligible and still have a postseason game and all this year? Is that kind of what he's been saying to you guys, and is that what internally is kind of your drive here?
Absolutely. No one's given up. You got 4 winnable games, and that brings us 7 wins, and that's bowl eligible. So, just got to keep working hard every day in practice and, get these wins.
Yeah, and and to that point, it's just triggered something. I remember being at the Cardinals, and we got off to a little bit of a slow start, and and nothing. This is not direct. Just the question in general. Don't ever sell us or what we do in our profession, whether it's players, amateur, professional, short. We would never quit. I mean there's a flaw in your character when you think in those terms. There's nobody in our room on our football team. I don't care how many games we got left. If there's no bowl possibilities, we signed on here to give the best that we could possibly give, right till the very end. And that's the message that I send, and that's the message. That's what these guys understand. That there's no don't you can people. Again, not directed, but people can question, all they want. But hey, we would never have that in our mindset. All right, is that we're professionals. So what we do, in terms of our approach. So we're always going to play hard and do all the right things right down to the very end. And I know I get that feel from these players.
Ron, on offense, how do you guys get back into a little bit of a rhythm here, going from scoring 33 to only 14?
We didn't run the ball that effectively last game. Anthony Taylor's had 200 yards before that in the previous 2 games. We just didn't run the ball as well, and that's going to affect the passing game. It's not going to open it up as much. So we got to get back to our bread and butter, and that's the running the ball.
Alex, do you sense sometimes that Joe presses a little bit, maybe when the game's on the line, or if things weren't going well, and does he take a little extra pressure on his shoulders, and sometimes does that maybe lead him to make a decision that he might not normally make?
That's yeah. To answer your question, yeah, and we talk about it a lot, and hey, here's the keys to the car. All right, just don't run into anything. All right, and get it from point A to point B, because we've got the guys in place. You got to take that approach. You don't have to start the car then get out and push it too. It'll run on its own. But just execute the plays and do all those things. And he understands that. And I think that's the nature of all quarterbacks, to be honest with you. I mean, everyone I've ever been around, they want to take it all on themselves and say, hey, I can get this done, and that's what you want. But there's also a fine line there too.
Ron, you have his ear as well as anybody. You're as close to Joe as anybody. Do you sense that sometimes, and do you have to tell him, relax, we can do this together and it's not all on you?
Yeah, absolutely. The quarterback always takes control of the whole entire offense. So Joe does put some of that on his shoulders, but he's pretty calm, stays collective. He does a good job. I mean, we don't really need to calm him down, I don't think, but he knows his role and he knows what he's doing.
You talk about your season a little bit. I mean, obviously your first chance to be a starter here, and the team leading receiver and the leading receiver in touchdowns. So just kind of take us through how this season has evolved for you a little bit.
Absolutely. The coaches gave me an opportunity to play this year. They told me I needed to step up. I worked really hard in the summer in the camp, and luckily it's paying off right now. Worked a lot with Joe. Obviously, he's my roommate. Worked, every day with him, trying to get timing down. Some of the throws Joe makes, he throws them before I even turn around. So. We worked, all the receivers, we worked really hard.
That idea of the ball coming out before you've been turned around, does that start before you even go to practice? That idea of being roommates and being close, does that
absolutely, yeah. All the work you put in the summer, like I said, in camp, Joe, he throws it, I'll be running a 12-yard route, and he's throwing it when I'm at 8 yards, and knowing exactly where I'm going to be, and, that's just a lot of practice.
Coach, what's the challenge that you see from Ohio? And I guess start by, not necessarily knowing where they're going to go in their quarterback position, right? Is that where it starts?
Yeah, it truly is. I don't know who we're going to see there, Sprague or Vic. Vic is an interesting guy, obviously. They're all good quarterbacks, and I had a chance to watch them both, and they've been in and out of the lineup. But, we'll be ready. We'll have a plan for each one of those guys. They run some zone read with both of them, and not that Sprague and Vic, they both, I think, equally can throw the ball, well. I mean, I think the numbers, you'll see, the numbers speak for themselves. But yeah, that's always going to be a concern going in. And the biggest really concern is that I talk to coaches around the league. They play different at home as a football team. They're a different team on their home turf than they are on the road or neutral side or whatever the case might be. But they're a lot better. They play much more inspired. And again, we've played them always competitive. Since I've been here, I think I've only lost to them once. And but again, they're a different football team. There, on both sides of the ball and special teams.
How big a challenge is it to have to prepare for two quarterbacks with varying styles like that?
That creates an issue, a problem, because there's only so much time and prep that you can put in. And then, you have to have, I don't know, a totally separate plan, but you got to have, some nuances, in your plan to address each one of those guys, their style of play, and then how they use their personnel, when they're in a football game. So that could, that creates concerns.
Coach, as part of getting Anthony maybe back on track, go back to that controlling the line of scrimmage idea that you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's been our forte from day one since I've been here, and and I probably shouldn't say this, but that's been my forte as a coach. I like to run the football, and I think it helps us build a play-action passing game and all that stuff off of it. But that's not a secret. You can watch our film and tell that. But we're going to try to get that done this week.
Ron, you've experienced a couple of these over the past few years, but do you like these sort of midweek night games? I mean, is there a little bit of a different vibe from the guys on the team when you know you're...
Absolutely. It's fun because, you get to play on ESPN, and, everyone wants to play on ESPN. Everyone wants to play in the bright lights and the big moments, and that's who you see who the best players are and who the best team are. So, yeah, we do like them. It's a little hard, getting prepared. It's kind of, when you have practice on Friday, Saturday in the morning, it's a little different, but, it's fun.
Anything else? All right, both Coach and Ron are available for one-on-ones if needed.